These videos are about regular people talking about the things that divide us, immigration, race, Trump, etc., so they might offend you. But I hope they're useful, like some videos I made about home repairs that help thousands of people. You see, I hate doing my own home repairs. I don't want to listen to a professional home repair guy who makes it look easy. And I think people like it when you just try to get the job done, without all the special tools, without wasting half your weekend. TV pundits give me the same vibe. I don't want to listen to these people. They have better jobs than regular folks, a TV show or a tenured position. And when you see them on TV, they're at work. It's their job to talk about this stuff. They're not really interested in learning from each other and fixing the problem. They sure don't ask the questions I would ask. So me and my brother, who is himself progressive, we drove to 22 cities and interviewed dozens of people who support progressive causes. And I learned this: it's our feelings that divide us, feelings driven by personality. See, some of us want to be the innovators, the trusting, the idealists. And some of us want to be the managers, the cautious, the realists. And each of us builds a fortress around our feelings that you can't break through with facts and arguments. But maybe we shouldn't try. Apparently, evolution or God or whatever made us this way for a purpose. I think that purpose is that we need each other to get the full picture. I know it works that way with other things, but we have to talk to each other. If we don't talk to each other, we won't make progress. From Oregon, we drove to Santa Rosa, California, where we talked to Jorge Rebagliati, an environmental activist who's for many years been writing that climate change is a disaster with a deadline. He's the owner of Quest, green technology products in Santa Rosa, and we talked to him weeks after the 2017 Northern California firestorm tore through Sonoma, Napa, and Solano counties. We started by asking him if he was familiar with the contrarian views on climate change.
From my understanding, the vast majority of scientists are actually agreeing that the climate has changed, and also they are agreeing that a lot of that, most of that change has happened because of greenhouse gases emissions from our societies.
Okay, well, if I can stop you right there, have you read any of the people who do call into question whether this is anthropogenic or whether it's caused by one of the other factors?
I haven't seen anything that is very convincing. The facts, reality is showing that what was predicted decades ago have been happening. I'm very, very concerned that we are wasting a lot of time. We just had in October the devastating fires here, including Santa Rosa. Now there are devastating fires in the south. Our governor is saying, this is the new normal. We're having too many spectators and very few actors here trying to solve the problem. Now, if we don't really take it seriously and make climate change action, a core issue for the whole society, there's going to be a point where the climate changes will not have any chance of being reversed or ameliorated. Say, for instance, something very obvious, the melting of the ice. We cannot make ice again. Okay, once it's gone, it's gone. That's something very peculiar to climate change, and that's what you have heard about tipping points. It means that if we do too little now, even if it is a step in the right direction, it won't be enough to stop the problem in the future. And then what we will have a new climate, a different climate in which we didn't grow up in.
Sure. On what do you base that on? Because I know, again, I don't want to challenge you on facts, but the one fact I do know is the International Panel on Climate Change, Work Group 1. In their 2007 report, even they said a long-term projection of climate is impossible with the data. Now that was 2007. Are you saying that, to your satisfaction, you believe that all of the science on this is settled and that there is no disagreement?
Settle on what? I mean, on climate change?
That climate change has progressed, and if we don't do something, we'll continue to progress.
Yeah, well, yes, and again, like I said earlier, there are also the events.
Okay, well, sure.
Yeah, like
sure.
2017 have been, picture perfect year for events, particularly in our country.
And if I can ask, the folks who disagree, and there are, reputable scientists who disagree, what do you say about their opinion?
Well, I'm still surprised that they can actually be so against the facts of nature that we are observing, and also
they're not against facts of nature.
Opinions of so many scientists in the world.
Well, they are against the opinions of many scientists because they have drawn different conclusions from those facts.
Mm-hmm.
They're not against the facts. They're just saying that with the facts that we all share, we do not come to the same conclusions.
Yes. You see, climate change or global warming, actually, was mostly a concept, let's say, 40 years ago. Even though, of course, there were effects already, there was already a warmer atmosphere, but it still was not that very obvious. Mm-hmm. So at that time, it was mostly a concept. Now it has become something that we're actually experiencing directly, in many forms, and extraordinary things are happening. And let's say you are the skeptic, but let me ask you this: how many times have you heard the word unprecedented this year about weather events?
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, geologic time is so slow. I wouldn't be surprised if we heard unprecedented for the next 300 years.
Yeah, no, but we heard it in events from this year.
Well, sure, yeah.
We're not looking at a whole century. We're looking at. That's one of the things that are really different.
Okay. Well, no, you're right. I have heard the word unprecedented, but I come to a different conclusion.
The thing is that we don't have much time.
Well, in your opinion, we don't have enough time.
In my opinion, and also in my observations, and I'm not the only one, of course.
No, you're right. But would you agree that there are people who disagree with that? There are reputable people who do disagree with that.
Yeah, and I know about millions of people that are already suffering tremendously from the new conditions in the climate.
Okay, well, fair enough. You've seen the opposition research, mm-hmm. or the opposition opinion, and you do not believe it's credible enough, which is fine. I can respect that. You also think this is too urgent not to do anything, which I can respect that tremendously. Yeah. So what solutions would you propose?
Yeah, well, what we're proposing is that climate change is categorized as a major disaster. So meaning extreme crisis that we have to deal with at the same level of a world war. I'm totally convinced that it's the number one issue that we don't deal with, we're going to run out of Earth. So one practical solution is to have our governments issue declarations, official declarations with a plan, sufficiently detailed on climate change. So same way that the United States declared war during World War II. We need our governments to declare war to climate change, and that can come out as climate change major disaster declarations, which all governments can do, from the local government to the state government and of course the federal government. Mm-hmm. But because there are economic interests involved in this, then it has been politicized. Because those economic interests, with a short side, because, we only have one planet. So even the richest person in the world is going to be impacted. Like Rupert Murdoch, just almost lost his house in Bel Air from the fires. So I hope they don't think that they are immune. So, but those huge economic interests have been, influencing politics big time, and also influencing public opinion. So the politicization of these issues is a very difficult and sad outcome, and very dangerous, because deal with decisions that are proposing to do nothing and keep on burning fossil fuels, all that, because I extract them and I sell them. It's totally against humanity.
Well, I mean, they are the ones who are going to be most severely affected if folks like you do get, the governments of the world to declare this disaster. Then they are the ones who are going to suffer.
Well, they will have to,
right?
they will have to adapt. They will have to change their businesses. Yes.
Okay.
I didn't, I don't remember the history of it, but I'm sure that the chemical companies that were making DDT were for, everybody using DDT.
Right. And then Rachel Carson wrote Silent Spring, and DDT is now illegal. Yeah. And were you aware that there's a contrarian opinion that believe that the outlawing DDT has resulted in a tremendous amount of death because of malaria? I mean, were you aware of that?
Right.
I'm sorry, I don't want to be a gotcha
interviewer. I haven't followed that issue.
Yeah, DDT is a very good example because that is one thing where conservatives believe we simply got the science wrong on that.
Well, I don't know why you call yourself conservative. I
I'm a conservative.
You're just coming from certain set of information that you agree with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
I wouldn't call it conservative.
As do you, I suppose.
I wouldn't call it conservative.
Okay, well, to
liberal.
me,
I mean, that's what we're talking about, politicizing.
Yeah.
Let's look more about the physical facts.
Okay. Well, and the physical facts. Now, that's where we can have a really good discussion on DDT. But we're not. I'm not.
I know, but this is not about DDT. Yeah.
So, but the question I would ask you, and I'm so glad you brought up politicization, because for me, again, I'm going to label myself as a conservative. I look at the folks who are hurt the most by the global warming argument. And they're the folks who are in the fossil fuel industry. They're the folks who are, power generation folks. And then I look at the people who benefit from it. The people that benefit from this are the folks in the renewable energy world. We see politicians and activists who both do a great deal of fundraising on this issue. So they have an economic interest in your view being the correct view. So when you say, well, follow the money, I would just come back to you and say, well, follow your money. I mean, academics get an absolute cornucopia of grant money from the administration to study global warming.
Well, yeah.
If you don't believe it, if you're going for a contrarian study on global warming, you will not be funded in this country.
I'm not too worried about those big economic interests, about their lives. I think that, what we are observing now is actually millions and millions of humans that are suffering from the new climate conditions. People that have been abandoning their lands because the lands don't support them anymore. The people that are island people that also have to leave because the level of the ocean is rising.
Sure. Now, you've just given me a set of facts that do sound alarming, and my point to you was that the people who are delivering you those facts, they have an economic interest in blaming those on global warming. It's politicians, activists.
Yeah, what kind of economic interest are you talking about? The donations?
Well, the politicians and the activists do a tremendous amount of fundraising based on global warming. Yeah. That is undeniable.
Oh, yeah?
The media gets a tremendous amount, scaring the world that there's a global emergency.
I don't think that there are a lot of politicians that have gotten a lot of money from people supporting climate change action.
Well, I disagree with you.
I see a lot more money on denying climate change than on proposing climate change action.
Okay,
and that's
all I want to know.
I have been observing that a lot of the environmental organizations have become, in a way, climate change enablers because they go for little changes, and in the meantime they ask for donations every time. So they're telling us, we're fighting for you for climate change, donate. Okay, so I'm worried about that situation because most of them actually don't look at the whole problem. They say, well, we are fighting the XL pipeline, so donate. We are proposing more solar panels in a certain city. Okay, donate. Okay, but I don't. Most of those organizations are not saying we are working on solving the problem, the whole thing.
And that's your point. That's why you're saying this should be a state of emergency.
That's correct. Yes,
okay.
Because this is it's a local problem, it's a state problem, it's a national problem, it's a global problem.
So, is there anything that we forgot to talk about that you'd like to mention?
Well, I just I want whoever is watching this video, please wake up. If you don't think that you have any involvement with climate change, think again. It's affecting you. It's affecting your community. It's affecting your life. And this is not about being scared. It's about being prepared.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All right.
So ends this interview in our Drive to Understand series. That was Jorge Rebagliati of Santa Rosa. I want to thank him for talking about climate change, and I hope that you may want to support this series by liking the video and subscribing. Thanks.